I'm Sunny Hostin.
And I'm Joey Jackson.
Welcome to a special HLN report, Naked Justice, A Matter of Trust.
All the streets, Black Lives Matter. Black, white, all races, all religions. This is a history-making moment.
Welcome and thank you so much for joining us. You know, we invite you to participate in this very important conversation. Tweet us all night long. We'll be reading your tweets, and remember the hashtag Naked Justice.
Right. Well, tonight, the protests over police brutality and the shootings of unarmed black men are hardly going away. From coast to coast, people are using Tumblr and other social media platforms to organize their own demonstrations.
Oh, they so tonight, honey, as you know, we have an extraordinary panel with us in New York. We have entertainment editor for BET.com, Clay Kane, also David Banks, founding principal of Eagle Academy and author of Soar, How Boys Learn, Succeed and Develop Character. Great book.
And really, the movement certainly is continuing, and part of the discussion has been for quite some time, the discussion that parents of color must have with children of color. So there's a provocative PSA now that highlights the different conversations or the talk that parents of color have to have with their children, preparing them to deal with law enforcement. It's brought to us by the organization Brotherhood Sister Soul along Sachi and Sashi, and here's the talk about the talk. Take a listen.
Listen, one day you're going to be stopped by the police. When that happens,
always make sure they can see your hands.
okay?
Never move suddenly.
And always be extra respectful, even if they're not. Your job is to get home safe. Understand?
And hey, if you ever feel like you're in trouble, just reach out for the police. They're there to help.
Wow. I mean, when I saw that, I thought, my goodness, I know my parents had to talk with me. I have had to talk with my 12-year-old son. Let me bring you in, Mr. Banks, David Banks. Have you had to talk with your kids? You have 3 boys and a girl, right?
Absolutely. I think if you're a black man in America and you're raising sons, you have to have the talk. My mom and dad raised 3 sons. They had to talk with me and my brothers. I had them with all 4 of my children, including my 3 sons. And I've had it with the over 2,000 young men that we work with at our schools at the Eagle Academy for young men. We have schools in every borough in New York City, in addition to being in Newark, New Jersey, and we are making sure that we have the talk with those young men so they understand how to interact with the police, and we talk about that in my book, Soar.
And David, let me ask you, when you say the talk, because I obviously, as we've seen from that clip, the talk means different things to different people.
Sure.
What kind of things do you say, or have you said, to your beautiful children?
Listen, it's an issue that at some point, if they're ever stopped by the police, if they're in a car and they're pulled over by the police, or if the police, knock on your door for whatever reason, sometimes you may feel like you're being accused of something that you had nothing to do with, but it's about how you have a positive interaction. The time for street justice is not on the street. It's to make sure you're respectful and speaking with the police, and you go from there.
David, it's interesting because I always say, I have this thing where I say, comply now, grieve later. You're never going to win on the street.
That's sort of the lawyer in you and in me. The Naked Justice, we are live and checking your tweets as we always do, and we are seeing a lot. This is what we are seeing right now. Tasha says, it's sad that as a black mother, I have to one day have the talk with my son. Is this America? S. Vest says, communication is important, but police leaders should also have the talk with officers.
Yes, indeed. And Amy Heffington, Sonny, says, I'm white. My driving daughter is white, and I have told her those exact things, I guess referring to the talk, the conversation about how to behave with the police. And then we have Ira J. And Ira J, you say, they always say all cops aren't bad, neither are all black people, but we are all treated that way. So that's that person's perspective there. So, African-American parents are having open and honest conversations with their children as it relates to law enforcement. Is the talk vital, or is it really just creating a culture that's really a victim culture? And that's a conversation we really need to have.
And we've been having it because you see we're getting tweets from white parents as well that are saying, yes, every parent has to have this conversation. You should be respectful of the police, whether or not you're white, red, or blue.
David, he raises a good point. Clay certainly does. But, certainly at the end of the day, you have people out there saying, we get it, but it's not about fashion, it's about respect. And certainly that respect needs to be mutual, right?
Sure.
Young men need to respect the police, and the police need to respect young men.
Absolutely. Listen, first of all, I come from a law enforcement household. My father was a lieutenant on the New York City Police Department for 27 years. My brother made the rank of chief on the New York City Police Department. So I come from a household where we understand about law enforcement and being very respectful of the police. But I think oftentimes in the white community, what they don't understand is when they're having those conversations, it's about being courteous to the police, yes. But black parents have to have the conversation that says, don't put your hands in your pocket. Don't make any quick and sudden movements that may in fact cause the police officer to perceive your movements as being dangerous or aggressive. So it's a much deeper level of conversation. But I also want to expand on this. It's not just simply to talk about the police officers. We're having talks with our young men that say how you deal with the police on the street, a criminal justice system. Very often, it's also not showing a level of equity and fairness and justice. We're talking about the media, which often depicts negative images around what's happening with young men. They're very quick to show young men who are breaking into stores, but don't want to show young black men who are succeeding and doing well. So what I'm hearing from our young men in my schools, these 2,000 young men I work with, they're afraid, they're vulnerable, they're scared because they feel like they are being surrounded by danger. Like everybody is against them, including the other young men who live in the neighborhood, who they have to fear them more than they have to fear even the police.
Welcome back to Naked Justice. We are live, and well, we certainly heard from Attorney General Holder right after or during the Zimmerman case about the talk and about hoodies and that sort of thing. I think we have a little bit of that sound.
Trayvon's death last spring caused me to sit down to have a conversation with my own 15-year-old son, like my dad did with me. This was a father-son tradition I hoped would not need to be handed down. But as a father who loves his son and who is more knowing in the ways of the world, I had to do this to protect my boy. I am his father, and it is my responsibility not to burden him with the baggage of eras long gone, but to make him aware of the world that he must still confront. This is a sad reality in a nation that is changing for the better in so many ways.
And that was Attorney General Eric Holder discussing the talk he had to have with his son. And Mr. Banks, what do you think? I mean, you have this school, you're teaching boys. Is there a uniform that black children can wear that isn't threatening? Because we've heard a lot about the hands up. I've gotten tweets about people saying, well, put your pants up. If you're dressed a certain way and you're not listening to this loud hip-hop music and your pants aren't sagging, then you're not going to be racially profiled. You're not going to be seen as one of them.
I don't know that that's actually the case, right? So first of all, we have a uniform policy at our school, and we do that because we think it advances our educational mission and the work that we're actually doing. But the reality is that if you see these men our young men after school or on Saturdays, they got on their jeans, they got on their hoodies, every generation has its fashion statement. And I don't think that you can really take that away from them. Young black men and black men in particular are not being pulled over necessarily because of what they wear. If you see me on a Saturday, I wear a suit and a tie every day. But if you see me on a Saturday, I got jeans and sneakers and a sweatshirt on. I mean, I'm not going to walk around with a suit and tie 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So there's no real way to fashion adjust your way out of this perception that people have about you in the first place. What our young men say is that, we have the same hopes, dreams, and aspirations of everybody else. We want our fair shot at life without having to worry about being shot.
Clay. The number one reason for me wearing the t-shirt was the thought of what happened to Tamir Rice happening to my little Austin scares the living hell out of me. And my heart was broken for the parents of Tamir and John Crawford, knowing they had to live that nightmare of a reality.
That's Andrew Hawkins, of course. He's a football player, Cleveland Browns. He wore, of course, a shirt, saying "I can't breathe," and he got major reaction for it.
Yeah, Banks.
Yeah, I think that this nation needs to recognize that this is not a marginal issue, that this is an issue that we're going to really have to wrap our arms around. It's an issue of national security. This nation has to begin to invest in black boys. If every police officer in this country stopped shooting black men today, we would still have major issues. Young men need to understand the possibilities that they have in their lives. That's the work that we try to do at the Eagle Academy. That's what should be happening all across this
Keep
country.
it up, Clay King. And To Soar, How Boys Learn, Succeed, and Develop Character. Great book, David Banks. Thank you so much for joining us, our guest, everyone. We appreciate you.